Hi there, and welcome to the third part of a series we're doing here at Hometown called Biblical Convictions That Matter This Election. And this particular devotional is about valuing human life. And I'm Pastor Jeff, so good to see you. Well, the pro-choice versus pro-life debate is still hot. Now more than 47 years after Roe v. Wade made abortion legal in 1973. It's an intense topic because we're in an election year, but also because of Amy Coney Barrett's recent appointment to the Supreme Court. But I want to step back from the debate, and I want to reframe the discussion around our nation's founding documents and some biblical truths. And one disclaimer, I only have about 10 minutes. So much more can be shared about the value of human life, but I will do my best. And I hope this devotional helps you as you consider this topic and the upcoming election. The first point I want to make is that I consider human life to be unique and wondrous. God tells us in Genesis 1:27 that we are made in His image, male and female. Each of us is created by God with great value, greater value than this earth and other living things. James 1:18 says that out of all of creation, we became His prized possession. We are not simply a collection of random organic parts. Every human being is a soul worth investing in and uplifting. Many of us can take care of ourselves, but what about the vulnerable? And this is where valuing human life comes in. I'm talking about any marginalized human being. Jesus made a habit of loving people who were not valued by His society. Sick people, disabled people, little children, a poor widow, and many more. Add to this that the Old Testament specifically targets a quartet of marginalized people needing protection. They were the poor, the foreigner, the orphan, and the widow. This includes the 38 million Americans living in poverty today, and the nearly 80 million refugees around the world. I think this also includes our single parents and the many neglected and abused children. Christ followers must be committed to investing in and lifting up human life at all stages, especially those who are most vulnerable: the unborn, the very young, the very old, those in poverty or very sick or disabled. We must invest in and uplift immigrants, individuals with special needs, at-risk women, and needy individuals of all colors and backgrounds. This is valuing human life. In particular, I want to include the unborn. Psalm 139 verses 13 through 17 says this. This is in the NLT. You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. How precious are your thoughts about me, O God. They cannot be numbered. God made each of us, and He valued us from the moment we were conceived. Each abortion is an unborn human life that is lost. The National Association of Evangelicals put out an article prior to the 2018 elections entitled "An Evangelical Call for Civic Responsibility." It reported that half of all pregnancies in the U.S. are unplanned and many are aborted. Unplanned pregnancies are at the root of abortions. And unplanned pregnancies result from extramarital sex or inadequate use of contraception. We as a church are reluctant to recommend contraception for unmarried sexual partners because we oppose sex outside of marriage. But it is even more tragic when unmarried partners compound one sin by then destroying the precious gift of human life. So, all human life has value, and the unborn are uniquely vulnerable because they have no voice. We must invest in and uplift the unborn. The second point I want to make is the conflict between two highly regarded values in our nation's founding documents. In 1776, the Declaration of Independence states that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But what happens if the right to life and the right to liberty or freedom are at odds? Which way should we land? This right to life and liberty was ratified into the Constitution after the Civil War in 1868. The 14th Amendment says that no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The primary purpose of this amendment was to protect the newly gained freedoms for our nation's African Americans. This amendment has since been expanded to protect the freedoms of all persons, which is appropriate. But what about unborn babies? Aren't they unborn persons needing protection? And what about our freedom? Do we have the freedom to do what we want when we want, especially as it regards our own bodies? Of course, our freedom is important and should be protected. But we must all limit our freedoms. And this is very simplistic, but if I come to a traffic stop and the light is red, well, I give up my freedom to drive forward. I defer to crossing traffic. And if not, I'll get hurt or someone else will get hurt. Our freedoms must be limited. Laws restrain us and protect us. In particular, women with unwanted pregnancies experience a uniquely difficult circumstance. It is not fair. Pregnant women absorb this burden unfairly, and too many men run from their responsibility. This is a topic for a different message. But our freedoms do not supersede the value of other human lives. In Philippians 2, we read that Jesus gave up his right to rule over us as God and instead became a slave with no rights, and he died for us. Giving up our rights and freedoms for others, especially persons who are needy and vulnerable, this is difficult, but godly. And it demonstrates an amazing love for others. As we approach another election, place a high value on human life, especially those unborn persons who have no voice and no vote whatsoever. Thank you so much for tuning in, and may God bless you, especially during this election season.